If you want to build unstoppable confidence and learn to use fear to your advantage, one of the best blueprints for doing that comes from UFC fighter Jon Jones.
And I genuinely believe that I can do anything. And I'm not surprised that I'm still here.
He went from a nervous 19-year-old applying to be a janitor to one of the greatest fighters of all time.
So I took myself from being very average-minded to actually believing that I was the shit and believing that I could be the shit and that I could be the GOAT and be the greatest and never lose. And I took myself to a different place mentally.
And everything he did, we can replicate. So today we're breaking down 5 lessons from Jon that will help you overcome fear and anxiety and become a confident, formidable person. If you're new here, my name's Ben, and this is where we break down the best lessons from great warriors and philosophers. Speaking of Jon, he's done some bad things, and I don't condone all of his actions. But I also believe there's enough haters on the internet already, and this isn't a place to hate on people. I believe in learning from the best that people have to offer. So that's what we're doing here. Let's dive in. You might think someone who's a UFC champion never feels fear, but that's not the case.
Don't get me wrong, I have the worst anxiety. I get very nervous, but I owe it to myself to not be afraid.
Everyone feels fear, but Jon is actually able to use it to his advantage.
I've been saying something that I find to be very interesting, that the butterflies in your stomach are in formation. Right. I've never heard that before. I think it makes a lot of sense. What do you mean by that? Elaborate.
What I mean by it? Okay, so the butterflies in formation, basically it means when you have butterflies and you're feeling anxious and you have anxiety or nervous, that's when you're most powerful, I believe.
So the first lesson from Jon is reframe nervousness into excitement. Butterflies are your body telling you that something important is about to happen, and at the same time preparing you to perform at a high level.
A big challenge or big pressure is like a fire. It's like a raging fire. Either you can allow this fire to consume you and just take you over completely, or you can gain control of this fire and harness it, and you blow it right at your opponent like Dragon Ball Z style. All right, so that's what I'm trying to do.
It's an evolutionary trait we all have, so leverage it. And since you guys know I love examples, I'll drop a bunch more examples here of ways to reframe nervousness into excitement. Pause the video if you want to look at those. The more you reframe things to become excited about winning rather than scared of losing, the more it becomes a habit and the easier it'll be the next time around. Whenever you see someone who's really confident, a lot of us question whether they were born that way. With Jon, the answer is clearly no.
I went from a very average thinking person, like just average 19-year-old, to getting I don't like reading, so I literally got on all these TED Talks and on YouTube, and I just started YouTubing videos about self-belief and what does it mean to be confident, and what does it mean to be a winner, and how do you become a winner. And I would watch hours and hours of Tony Robbins and Les Brown and TED Talks, and I taught myself how to believe in myself and how to think that I was greater than just this kid.
Which is great because it means that we can change our mindsets in the exact same way that he did. And how he did it was studying the craft.
Something that you can take with you is study. You know, a lot of athletics is not just a physical thing. You know, I try to study my competition. I try to study nutrition. I try to study other great athletes, guys who've done great things in the past, and try to model, myself after them. So I'm big on the mental game when it comes to being an athlete.
There's a quote from David Ogilvy, one of the best advertisers of all time, where he said, "The good ones know more." Meaning the takeaway here is spend more time immersing yourself in the thing you want to get better at. If that's building confidence like Jon, then you can listen to podcasts, you can watch TED Talks. That's what he did, but honestly, I think there's better stuff out there now. You can watch videos like this. That's why I started this channel. There's tons of books, etc. People say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but this also applies to the content you spend the most time with. So step 1 is immerse yourself, but step 2 is apply what you learn, because learning means changing your behavior. The best growth Jon ever had came from learning about the power of the mind.
The biggest life lesson that I've learned is the power of the mind, and just how important it is to look at yourself at a high regard and to believe in yourself.
But this is a little vague, so I want to break it down further. Jon specifically talks about 2 things, meditation and visualization, that helped him become one of the best to ever do it. Jon spent a lot of time visualizing himself becoming champion. He says he believes in the law of attraction, which is the same thing Conor McGregor talks about.
If you can see it here, and you have the courage enough to speak it, it will happen.
In my opinion, the way people talk about the law of attraction, where when you speak something, it changes the quantum physics of the universe to make it happen, is pseudoscience. But there's a better explanation that goes something like this. Imagine you're at a dinner party and it's loud and you're chatting with someone, but then across the room, someone whispers your name. You instantly hear it because your name is the most important word to you. So your brain has rewired itself to notice anytime someone says it. And if you use visualization or affirmations to focus on a goal, then your brain rewires itself to notice anytime there's an opportunity related to that goal. And because of that, everything refocuses around this goal, making you more likely to achieve it. Meditation is also useful here to distance yourself from fear and negative thoughts. Helps you stay calm and not get caught up in things, which we'll elaborate on in lesson 5. But just remember, thoughts don't require action. When looking at Jon or anyone else we've covered on this channel, we tend to look only at the successes and compare their success to where we are now, which is way behind. So the 4th lesson isn't so much about building confidence during a peak performance, but maintaining confidence before you get there.
It's amazing for a guy who I believe was a janitor, right? And you got into this because you needed to get some money for diapers, right?
Yeah, I was applying. I was a bouncer actually, making $50 a night, and I was applying to be a janitor because I would have benefits.
Wow.
And right when I was waiting to get the call back, someone wrote me on Twitter, a guy named Gary, a kid that I never met, and he said, "Hey, my cousin owns an MMA gym." The kid changed my life forever. He just planted a seed in my MySpace and changed my life forever.
What? You see, even Jon had times when he was on the down and out, with no evidence that he would ever amount to anything. So lesson 4 is don't beat yourself up if you're not where you want to be yet. Good things take time, and there's a million other examples like this. Before Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, he was practically homeless. He actually had to sell his dog to afford his living expenses while trying to pitch Rocky. I'll drop some more similar examples here. Pause the video if you want to read all of those. There's one last thing that Jon does well that lets him keep growing. As we talked about, he's got a rough past, getting arrested and facing suspension. But he doesn't waste time dwelling on the past.
I can't allow my past to hold weight over me. You gotta forgive yourself for mishaps in life, and you gotta move forward. You can't hold yourself in prisons, and you can't allow anybody else to hold yourself in prisons.
Most of you watching won't have as dark a past as Jon, but we've all done little things that weaken our confidence because we tell ourselves negative stories about them. Even something like quitting a workout early becomes fuel to tell yourself that you're a quitter, or that because you haven't succeeded yet, you'll never be successful. But that's not true. And step 1 is distancing yourself from those negative beliefs, like Jon.
I do have the capability of taking away who I actually am at this point and realizing that this is just a part of me, or this is just a situation in my life. This isn't my actual life. This isn't my final destination. This is just a small moment in time that I'm going through right now. You get what I'm saying?
Again, meditation helps here. And step 2 is overwriting those stories with more evidence of you behaving like the type of person you want to be. Done over time, this will make you more confident. Those are the 5 lessons from Jon. I'll see you next week.
It's never over. As long as you never quit, it's never over.